What a surprise. CGP Grey, the podcaster, he made a YouTube video. Is this a new thing for you?
Very funny, Myke. Very funny. Someone was monkeying around with my Wikipedia profile. And there was a Wikipedia discussion about what order those things should go in, right? YouTuber or podcaster, and podcaster or YouTuber. And I saw there was like a little minor edit war over which way it should go. I'm not sure what the current state of things is now. But no, I make YouTube videos because I am Myke, a YouTuber.
Oh, right now, CGP Grey is an American-Irish podcaster and educational YouTuber. So podcaster currently wins.
Podcaster currently on top.
Yeah, I feel like it should just change around. Like, so right now you can be YouTuber if you post a video, like within the next, I don't know, 2 months maybe, we can maybe switch it back around again. But right now, I think you're a podcaster.
I leave it up to the Wikipedia gods, but I thought that was funny.
I would say it is quite an honor to be a podcaster and to be considered as such,
Yeah, no, it is. Podcasting is a noble career.
A noble profession for anyone. So what is the deal with the dragon video? What's this one all about?
What do you mean, Myke? This is just a regular video.
A regular Grey Explains video, as you're well known for.
It's in my usual style.
Yeah, nope. This is very different. This is a very different video.
It's a nice 4 minutes. Concise explanation.
Tight 4-minute video where you're going to leave with a very clear understanding.
Yeah. That's what this one is. No, this one is a little different.
It is a tad different. It is a 13-minute animated video in which you are reading a story. Mm-hmm. That is basically the exact opposite of what you typically do, right? Like that. Pretty much in every way, this is extremely different to the typical type of video that you produce.
Well, I mean, Myke, I like to, when I have the opportunity, I like to keep the people guessing.
You're an envelope pusher.
It's
what everybody knows about you.
Just people get into ruts of expectations, and then sometimes it can be nice to be surprised. And of course, from the perspective of someone who's actually making these things, it's nice not to be caught in becoming a caricature of yourself over time. So I like to do different things as well.
Because, you always like to have things that are out of character, as you're well known to prefer.
Again, anything that I do by definition cannot be out of character. That whole phrase makes no sense at all, Myke.
Now part of your character is yarn weaver, right? That's I guess that's part of what you are. You just, weave some wonderful tales with CGP Grey. Well,
I think it's important at this point to say that no, I am not a yarn weaver, because this is not a yarn that I have weaved. Yes. I did not write this story. This is I wasn't quite sure how to describe it, so I called it an adaptation of. It's an adaptation of it was actually a paper in a philosophical journal first by Nick Bostrom called The Fable of the Dragon Tyrant. So it's from, I think, like 2005. And it was originally published as a paper. And that is a thing that I have adapted into video form.
Why did you want to do this, though? So, when did you come across this? And, what about it made you think, I don't want to make a video about this, like you have many times, right? Where you will take a source material and make a video that is referencing the source material. Where in this instance, you wanted to basically use that material in its entirety with some modifications, right? It's different to the way that you would usually adapt a source.
There's a couple of things here. Thing number one, for the past maybe 2 years, I've had it in the back of my mind that it might be interesting to do something like a short story at some point. I didn't have anything really actionable about it, but it was just on my mental radar of things I was keeping in mind in the world, and what am I looking out for, and what can I possibly find? So it was a thing I was scanning for in the world. What eventually ended up happening, to give the longer version of this then, is viewers may remember that a little while ago I did a video about death, which got people quite worried.
Yes.
I don't know why. I'm just talking about a topic, but people were concerned.
I think it was the problem. That wasn't your first video about death.
No, well, yeah, okay. So I did a couple videos about death.
I did a whole death series, you could say.
Yeah. Now, okay, so this is exactly it, though. Here was the original plan. Me and my friend Philip from Kurzgesagt, we were talking about doing a little series on this topic. And so back in October, we roughly had a plan that we were each going to do like a pair of videos every 2 weeks for a month or 6 weeks. So in the end, the idea was going to be like there'll be 6 videos. We've each done 3, and the videos will cross promote, and they'll be talking about this topic that we think is interesting, and perhaps people haven't thought of it in the way that we think maybe people should think of it.
And you're referring to the fable?
Well, okay, so the original plan was that we were going to do several videos. Right. Now, in this plan, the fable that I have just uploaded was supposed to have been uploaded back in November.
It was a part of the series.
Right. So it was going to be a part of the series. There was going to be the first video that I did, which was called Why Die? The little like footnote sort of follow-up thing, which was like, I don't know, like almost like a little piece of concept art, which was the 24 Hours of Death was the next one in that series. But that was supposed to be just like the weird little middle one. And then the fable was going to be the final one in this series. That was the original idea. But what happened is this project dramatically expanded in scope very quickly. So the original idea was, I know what I can do to produce something quickly. I'm going to take an already finished thing. There's this short story. All I have to do is I'm going to read it.
Because that removes the typical bottleneck, which is how long it takes you to write a script, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That removes what is the bottleneck for me, which is I spend a lot of time writing these things, and I thought, a thing has already been written. I have but to speak it aloud, and then I have to work with an illustrator who I've worked with before and get storybook images made. Maybe it'll be a little bit like a Ken Burns documentary, a Civil War documentary. We'll have some still images. There'll be a little zoom in, little zoom out maybe, little pan across these images. Mm-hmm. But this should be a nice, quick, simple project. But that is not what happened. That is not remotely what happened.
Did you get a little bit creative, Gray? Is that the problem?
Okay, there's a couple of problems.
I became an artiste.
Okay, problem number 1. Have you ever seen the behind-the-scenes videos about the production of the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, Myke?
No, Gray.
Oh, I highly recommend them.
Gray, do you know I've only seen one of the Lord of the Rings movies and didn't like it?
Don't tell me this, Myke. I didn't hear that. I'm just going to keep moving on. So you just haven't. It's understandable you wouldn't have seen these because I'm not sure if they exist in digital form, but they were like DVDs back in the day. You had to buy like a huge big box set. So it's understandable that you might not have come across them because obviously you would be searching them out.
I mean, obviously, I love Lord of the Rings.
You do.
But I came to it just a little bit late, I guess, so I never had them on DVD.
Yeah, you came to it late.
I
I watch these things obsessively because it was the first time that I had ever seen explained the process of like, how do you take a book and turn it into a movie? Now, in the modern world, there are a million YouTube channels that talk about the process of film and how do you do things and like the structure that a film requires. Like, this is a much more well-known concept. It's much more out in the world now. But back when the Lord of the Rings movies first came out, this was my first exposure to this idea of like, we're a team of people trying to structure some movies. And in particular, trying to structure what might be one of the most unfilmable series of books that has ever been written. Like, the Lord of the Rings does not translate well into a movie, and I think they did an amazing job doing that. I thought about this a lot in the process of making this video because I originally thought I just need to read it out loud. But the very first few times when I read it out loud, I realized, oh no.
It's too complicated.
This does not work
Yeah.
at all as a video.
Mm-hmm.
It suddenly becomes obvious when you sit down and you think, what am I going to have on the screen while I'm saying these words? And as soon as the door was open to, I'm going to have to modify this document, it's like all of what would have been easy is now gone. Because now that seal is broken and I'm going to start doing my iteration process. So like I'm going to go over and over and over the story.
So so you considered that the complication was that you had to adapt it, not that it needed additional work in animating?
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be problem number 2, is I dramatically underestimated how many images need to be on the screen, that the time frame I had originally set out was an insane man's time frame. Because I thought like, there's only like 10 images I need and we can get 80% of the way there. I was like, nope, nope, not even remotely.
No.
But before that could even happen was the process of trying to change it into something that could be a video. Now,
Right.
Here's the thing. That original paper is indisputably more convincing and more interesting than the video that I produced. Like that paper is a famous paper for this very reason. Like it's a good story and it goes through all of these different like tangents that relate to a whole array of aspects around this topic, which is the topic of death. And it like is just incredibly well done. But not all of it works in video format. Like when you're explaining about how a hospital works, like there are big sections where you can't really show it on screen. And so it seems like it should be easy, but I thought about that Lord of the Rings documentary all the time because I remember the scriptwriters seemed like they're like, oh God, we're having such a hard time with this. And you sort of think like, oh, but don't you just cut some parts and you put it together and bam, you've got a movie. And you realize like, no, you have to cut parts, but still leave it as a coherent whole. It still has to be the original thing that you're trying to make. Like you're not making a thing from scratch. You just have to be really selective about what is going to go. And that just took far, far longer than I expected it would.
Did you find it harder to modify fiction?
Yeah, in some ways, because there are some little parts that I've added as well, and
Right.
it's I don't work in fiction
Because I assume there was a little bit of like a creator's dilemma there of like, is it good enough? Right? Because you are taking something that is an incredible piece of kind of fiction, right?
Yeah,
It's fiction, but like was a study, a paper. But if you've got to add to it, it has to be good enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and this is also like the pressure, which is this is a philosopher who is incredibly well renowned the world over with very important people, and he's written this very important paper, and I'm like, I'm gonna tweak it a little bit here and there, right?
I don't think you could do being a bit more succinct. Let me see if I can help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it is. It's like, well, I'm gonna cut this down. And it's like, oh God. So it was that was a lot of pressure. Like I have gotten the thumbs up to the final production, but it was a lot of pressure and a very different kind of thing to do.
So you communicated with the author about it?
At the beginning, I contacted Nick Bostrom to ask for permission because like I want to make sure that you're okay with this project. There have been other people who've tried to do adaptations of this, but it's like I want to make sure this is all above board. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, like I sent the final thing along, and it was like, oh great, thanks. So I was hugely relieved, as opposed to getting back an email of like, you've totally misunderstood my work, you fool.
So what's wrong with you? It's obvious. Why did you ruin it?
Yeah, so it was a lot of pressure, but like there are things that I'm really pleased with. Like I did have to add some details when I took other things out. So like in the original version, the king doesn't have a wife. There's no queen in the story at all. So it's like I just added her as a visual element that I think works really well.
I think that's a good emotional moment with the locket. I like that.
Yeah.
I think it added, honestly, I would say, like, I don't know the original, but it personally added a lot to the story for me because when the guy is pleading, you should see the video. If you've not seen the video at this point, it'll be in the show notes. You can watch the video. When the guy is pleading with the king, it adds to the king's kind of like motive for why he thinks this is important. If he is also lost,
yeah,
I think that is it was for me an important part of the story to show that like the king's motivation is pure, right? Like he feels like the dragon needs to be killed, and he understands that this guy's going to lose his dad, but everybody's lost someone. He lost the most important person to him. And again, like I also like thinking back to it now, that happened in between the moment of them deciding this project or not, because she's sitting behind him in the town meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And so between then and the time they shoot the missile, he's had to send his wife away.
Yeah, in the like canon of where the wife is, I feel like it's months before the final event has occurred.
Right.
Because the last scene that she's in is she's there celebrating the successful test launch with him. Wow. And then, like you don't see her there anymore. And it's like at some point between those two events, like she disappears. And then there's the king with the locket. So like that came along relatively late, like maybe 3 weeks before the final production. But I have to say, like, I was really pleased with that addition. I haven't really worked with fiction before, but I was like, I think this is a detail that adds to this.
CGP Grey, author, podcaster, YouTuber.
Yeah, no, but I'm not an author. Like this is this is right. This is the thing that I've often thought. Like if I hadn't ended up doing YouTube or like having this public career, I have often thought that a job that I could be pretty good at would be like a second or third draft editor on movie scripts. Like I could never write the original thing, but I've often thought like if I was the second or third guy to look at a script, which is a very standard process when you're doing movies, like you have, drafts and you send them off to different people.
Yeah.
I thought like I could do that. Not that I could ever create something from scratch, but I think I could find the places where you don't need this plot line, or like if you add this element, it would be a little better.
Like I can't do it, but I can tell you what's wrong with it. And that's like critics, right? Like a film critic can't necessarily make a movie, but they can look at a movie and they can tell you what they think should be changed. And that's just a different skill set.
Yeah. But anyway, so like it's just funny because this is a little moment in my life where it's like, oh, I got to kind of test this idea. Like, can I actually do a draft on somebody else's story and adapt it to a different medium? And I feel like I pulled it off pretty well. Yeah, so in addition to adding elements, it was just an enormous amount of trying to cut and focus on just a few elements. And I really think people should read the original paper. Like, the original paper is better and more convincing and more interesting in every way because you can do so much more with just written text, where it's less like you're having to hold people's visual attention while there's related videos on the side trying to pull them away. Like it's a very different medium, and I think it is better. But I'm super pleased with what came out of this in the end. But it was, I'm going to say, of all of the projects I have worked on in my adult career, this is probably the one where I underestimated how much work it would be by the most.
Okay.
Simply because I thought like it will be straightforward, and it isn't.
Yeah, and like it's not necessarily the thing you've worked on the longest, but
yeah,
it was when you're looking at the ratios of how easy you think it's going to be and the time you allotted and how long it actually ended up taking.
Yeah, because like I originally thought like, oh, this is going to be a 3-week, 4-week project at most. Like, whoops, no, it is not. No, it is not at all. It's also interesting seeing like cutting out parts that you particularly like and realizing, oh, this needs to go, even though I like it. And one that feels like a very Cortex kind of scene that's in the original is, while this whole thing is going on with the dragon, there is a rattlesnake infestation that occurs in the kingdom. And it's like, I love in the original paper this rattlesnake infestation because the purpose of it is the rattlesnakes are new and people are scared of rattlesnakes, and a couple of people have died from the rattlesnakes, and it becomes this thing that the kingdom, like, they demand right now, like, you got to get rid of this rattlesnake infestation. And the whole point of it is to illustrate the idea of the urgent versus the important. And it's like the rattlesnakes are new and they feel urgent, but they're not remotely important. And they're a huge diversion from what the actual problem is.
Like, give it 10 years and you'll be sacrificed into the rattlesnakes as well.
Yeah. And it was like, it just like, it hurt me to the core to lose their, like, I love the rattlesnakes, right? But I showed it to a couple of people and like, dude, you got to lose the rattlesnakes. Nobody cares. Like, you're having this whole story about a dragon and then you have this side tangent about rattlesnakes. I'm like, no, but it's really important. The idea between the urgent, like, it's not for this medium. Like, this is a story that you can't tell in a video.
I actually agree with everything there. I love the idea of that. That is genius. But it would have been too much. It's too much to keep track of. Like, why are there snakes? Like, how did I get rid of the snakes? And then you forget about the dragon, and the dragon's back. Like, It's too much. It's just too much going on. For what is a high concept that you're just walking into as well, right? Like, the person presses play, and then a book unfolds, and they're given a story. Like, there's enough time just trying to work out what is happening before you can really latch on to the story. So, like, keeping the story as simple as possible probably worked out pretty well for you, I think.
Yeah, and the original would have just been way too long. I think the first time I read it through and I timed it, it was something like 35 minutes to get to the end at like a speaking voice.
I would say, I think I would have kind of liked that. Like, you know, as much as I enjoyed the video, like, I think I would want more of it. Like, whilst I understand it's probably too much, I kind of like the idea of a 35-minute video, but I'm probably very alone in this, especially to YouTube's algorithm. Me and the algorithm disagree significantly on this, I would expect.
This is a good example, though, of my feeling with so many things in life where you can never know if you get it exactly right, but you can know which way is better to overshoot. And this is a case in video format where you always want to overshoot under. Right, it's much better to have a video that people feel like,
Wait,
I would like more of that.
Overshoot
versus
under?
A video where people feel like,
what is that? What are you trying? What is that? What is that phrase? Overshoot under?
You could overshoot over, and you can overshoot under.
All right, can I give you a better phrase for this one, please?
No.
Can we go with under promise and over deliver? Can we go with that one?
No, because that makes no sense in this context.
Of course it does, Gray. Overshoot under? What, like there's 2 basketball hoops and like you're going to the middle one, which is still impressive because it's 60 feet away rather than the 90 feet away. Like, I don't, like...
I think it makes perfect sense, Myke. You just don't like my phrasing.
Okay. That's kind of the problem. It's not. I'm not disagreeing with the sentiment.
The reason why I'm using overshoot under, right? Is it like, okay, let me explain. Is because, again, the metaphor in my mind is with so many things is that you have a dial and you want the dial to be set at the perfect marker, but you don't know what that marker is, right? Where exactly should that dial be turned? So you can overshoot in both directions. You can overshoot too much and you can overshoot too little. Like, you're missing the target. And so, like, which way do you want to go? That's always the important question to ask. And I think with video format, too short is almost universally better than too long. Without question. That's the way that you want to err on that side. That may not be the case with many other things, but with this format, I really think it matters. And after many, many, many dozens of revisions, there was not a shorter version of that story that I could have conceived of. Like, I tried to wring out every version I possibly could, and the rattlesnakes were the last to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made the right decision. Like, I wasn't checking the progress bar, as the video was going, right? And that's kind of like a warning sign to me. If I'm watching a video and I tap the screen to see how far along I am.
Yeah, that's always a bad
the death
sign.
knell.
Yeah.
That's the death knell of a video, right? Especially when you go into it, it's like, oh, this is 13 minutes, right? And you press play. If I start tapping at around minute 2, like, you haven't done very well there, my friend, and I wasn't finding myself doing that. Like, it was gripping enough. I do just want to circle back and say that I do not agree with the metaphor that you have
You're not
created
gonna
still.
let it go.
I agree with what you're trying to say. I disagree with the metaphor. I just want people to know that because I disagree. In a different way to the forest fire one where I just flat out didn't like that.
Your objection has been noted, Myke.
I just need everyone to know that phrase is poppycock and I don't like it.
What about the boulder? Do you object to the boulder metaphor, Myke? Or can we come back to that later?
I don't want to talk about that right now. We actually may come back to that later on. So I actually got a bunch of questions in our Cortex subreddit for you.
Oh, yeah?
And I wanted to pick a couple out from a post from the user QuirkyRain07, who asked some questions that I thought very interesting as it pertains to the creation of this video. So I'll give you a couple of these. So What was your role in making this video? Because with the script, you kind of served more of an editor than a writer, right? Like you really, again, whilst you adapted it, and I think that we can see you've added to it, it wasn't an original kind of idea and thought from you. And also, there seemed to be significantly more asset creation than usual. With animating, there was more music. There was also an illustrator, which I think is kind of different to your usual process. So were you kind of acting as a director? Like, what was your role in the creation of this video? Were you way more involved than usual in the kind of the piecing things together?
Well, I mean, it's listed in the credits, Myke. It's very clear. It says adapted and narrated by CGP Grey. That's how
right. So was that all you did then? You just gave the audio and then let everybody else run on their merry way, and then just a video popped out at the end of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it could say produced, adapted, and narrated by CGP Grey.
Executive.
But then I would look like an asshole, right?
Well, surely, like you did do that though, or like produced, directed, adapted, and narrated by the renowned author CGP Grey.
No, but I'm not an author at all. Like I've written nothing.
Sorry.
Right?
Why do I keep getting that
just
wrong?
to be really clear, I don't know why. Again, I am edited at best
by the world-renowned podcaster CGP Grey. That's why you narrated it, because you're a podcaster, right? Like you're used to the audio medium.
I am very used to the audio medium because I record all of the audio for my videos, Myke. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know what this role would be called. But it was a very different process because in almost everything that I work with other people, it's like I'm usually working with one other person or one other person is the primary contact through which other people exist. But I tend to just be very one-on-one in the way that I collaborate. But this was the first time that it was much more of a coordination between the team. And the thing that I think is throwing people off in the credits. So let me explain the roles like as it seems to me. So obviously I am adapting and narrating. That's obvious. There's music and also sound design, which is obvious. That role is very clear.
But that's different though, right? Sound design. You don't usually have sound design in your videos.
Yes, that is true. This is a thing that came up in the process that was suggested, and I was like, that is a brilliant idea that never would have occurred to me. Like, go for it.
Yeah, it adds a new dimension into it. Sorry, I think that the sound effects were... I mean, anyone that is a Relay FM member knows Myke loves the sound effect.
Of course.
He is sound effect wild, and there are going to be some great sound effects this year. I'm very excited. But we'll talk about that later.
But if you want to hear Myke's handiwork with those sound effects, where can they go, Myke?
Relay.fm/membership. Sign up to become a member, and you will get our bonus content, which includes a couple of text adventures that we've gone on together, including the renowned Spooky Manor.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of sound effects in there for you. So yeah, that was a thing that just didn't cross my mind, but then it became part of the process, and I was like, okay, great, this is way better. But the one that seems to confuse people is illustration versus animation. So it's been interesting to get feedback from people that I've shown it to, because like I'm looking at it in a very different way than I think the viewers are. But there are the actual drawings that you're seeing. Right? So there is the drawing of the dragon, there's the king, there's the queen, they're all of the people. Right? That to me is the illustration.
Yeah.
And Like that's what's occurring there. But what's not obvious behind the scenes is the way we set it up is that almost all of those pieces are done as separate little Photoshop drawings so that they can all be moved by the animator, the person who is animating the things, bringing them to life.
Okay.
But those are two separate roles.
Yeah.
Now, if you're just doing stick figures, an animator can very easily also be the illustrator. That can be the same person.
Because I think we spoke about this when you brought your animator on, that there was a library of assets already created by you, right? That they were taking from primarily and creating their own when necessary. But it's very different, and this is in a very different style.
Yeah. And to go back to those episodes when we were talking about me bringing on an animator in the first place, one of the questions and one of the things I was really looking for, because it was my first like real hire in quotes, was I was trying to find someone who could play both of those roles. Like I was aware that might not be possible, but that's what I was really hoping for. So like with the first person, I want to be able to find someone who can both do new stick figure drawings in a way that looks like my style, or even improves upon my style, which it totally has, and can also animate. Yeah, like I'm looking for those things, and now is the first time, and there may be exploratory motions in the future in different directions for this, where it's like, oh, maybe I can look at bringing someone on who is just an animator, right? Or someone who is just an illustrator.
To be more ambitious.
Yeah, this was an interesting project for me because it was the first time, and it was a way I really could see that by, like the whole of the economy, by increasing the specialization that people can do, you can do more, right? Whereas I can't write music, I can't draw that well, I can't animate that cleverly, but I can act as a coordinator between these people. And I can bring my skills to the table, which is the editing and smoothing down and simplifying of a complicated thing. And then all of those elements together become something that none of us could have produced individually. And so it was just really interesting to see, because it just made it so different than anything else that I've put together before. And I have to say, I'm really, really pleased with the way it came out.
I think you should be. Like I'm watching it silently here as we're talking, because it would be really distracting to listen to it as well.
Yeah, I think that would be hard.
But it is visually, I mean, I'm not trying to like suck up to you here, but like this could be on TV. Like
you're not sucking up to me because I didn't draw or animate any of the visuals.
Then I'll suck up to your animator and illustrator. But the visuals here are as good as something I could imagine watching on like children's TV, right? Like like that this would be an educational program that might be on the BBC or something, because it is such a striking and kind of original style, like the way that everybody looks. I feel like I haven't seen this type of like way of depicting people before. Like it's kind of unique in its own way. Like it is very, very attractive. Like it is, I think, the time, and I'm expecting significantly increased budget required to do it this way.
yes,
was worth it.
I'm
looking at this and I think that it was worth it, and that does actually lead me into a question which about 25 people have asked me about the money involved in this. Like, obviously this was a more expensive thing to do. Is the ROI calculation positive, and does that matter?
Yeah, well, at the time of recording, the final bill has not come due. So I can't give like exact comparisons to other projects, but easily just ballparking it in my head compared to other projects that I've worked on. When you factor in the amount of time that was spent, when you factor in the dramatically increased cost and the ungodly number of human hours that have been poured into this thing, it has to be one of the worst return on investment projects I have yet worked on. It's measured in those terms of like dollars back per dollar time hour spent, I think it's got to be near the very bottom of projects that I've worked on.
Right, but this, like coupling with what we were just talking about, this can be the problem with assuming that all work must be positive on revenue generated alone, because this project has shown you that, I can make significantly more exciting and interesting things if I have an animator. Well, then if you factor that into potential future revenue, this is a very different equation, right? Like, you may look at this video right now and be like, well, lost money on that one. But in a year, you could be like, oh, well, then we brought on this animator as well, and our videos became significantly more popular, and we made significantly higher returns on every video. And then it changes the equation for this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things here. The one that I want to say is, like, we'll get to the business end of it in a second. So, let's not forget that. But on a personal level, this was a project that was really important to me, and I was very aware of everybody I worked with had just total free reign of, like, anything you can think of to do to make this better, just go for it. Like, I'm not checking in with billable hours, like,
right. Not
just
nickel and diming
go.
this one.
Yeah, like, I don't want progress reports on how much you're spending this week. I don't want any of this. Like, if you think it can be better, just go for it. And part of that was because this was originally intended as this little series, this little crossover series. I was really disappointed with the way my first video came out in that series. Like, it was not what I wanted it to be, and probably is one of the videos I'm the most unhappy with in the past many years.
Which one was that one?
It's the Why Die one.
Okay.
24 Hours of Death. I love that one. I think that one's
genius.
great.
I mean, I really liked Why Die. I mean, it's not my favorite CGP Grey video of all time, but, like, I enjoyed it.
The thing that is disappointing to me is like, there's, whenever you create anything, there's the idea of it in your head, and then there's the ugly reality of what you have birthed.
Oh.
And boy, are those things different sometimes. And sometimes you feel like, after you have birthed the thing and you're looking at like the blood all over your hands and this mess of meat that you're holding, you're like, how did this happen?
Why do you write metaphors this way now? Like, what is going on?
I think it's a good metaphor. But it's like, it looks horrible. And you're like, this is not what I was intending to create in the world at all. And I think the Why Die one is probably the one where the version of that in my head is the most different than the thing that I ended up creating. But
sure,
we don't need to revisit it. There were a lot of constraints around, like, the production of that. But it's partly why, like, I really felt that just by the choice of projects, it happened to be that what I was intending to be the third and final thing in this little series basically gave me a chance to try to redo that first one. And so that was also why, like, I really want this to be good. And I don't want to make another thing and feel like, oh man, I only got one out of the three that I was aiming for. And now I feel like, I got 2 out of 3. I'm pretty happy about this. And so that was part of the reason. Other part of the reason is I do think it's an important topic to talk about, and sure does bring out a lot of interesting conversation, much more so than other topics I touch upon. Which you can see from the crazy number of comments on the video and in the Reddit.
Which never hurts.
It never hurts. It never hurts.
It can be weird, but it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
14,000 comments? My word. That's a lot of comments.
There's a lot of discussion going on about the video. The YouTube numbers are crazy as well.
That's wild. Like, I've just looked at the comment numbers on the Rules for Rulers, which I think is your most popular, or one of your most popular videos, 6 million views.
Yeah.
That has 19,000 comments. The current video is approaching 1 million, and it has nearly as many. That's wild. That's really crazy. Wow.
So it's like, the comment view ratio is 6 times higher than Rules for Rulers. Yeah, it brings out some interesting conversation, but
that I will not take a part in. But it can happen.
We can skip right by for the moment. But I can just say people sometimes have some very interesting interpretations of things. I do feel much more responsibility on the videos where I'm working with somebody else's material as opposed to assembling something on my own. So
Sure.
like the previous video about how machines learn, like that video I put in front of people who have talked about the topic, or like I send off to some experts, and I want to get the topic right. And I feel really good when people see the topic and they send back and they're like, oh yeah, you've done a good job explaining this. But it's very different when I'm adapting the book of an author, right? And this one was even more so. It's like I'm not even trying to convey the ideas in your story. I'm trying to make a version of your story that's a video.
Fiction's harder because nonfiction, it's like facts and research, and you can be like, well, I did this research and I don't agree with your point. I think of it this way, and this is what I'm pointing to and saying, there you go. That's why I disagree with this. But if you're taking somebody's imagination and telling them, like, I think it should be done differently, that's an emotional thing that you're giving to that person.
Yeah. So that's also why I really felt like just as many human hours as is necessary to make it good. Like let's go for it. Although even there, you have to set some limits.
Got to draw the line somewhere.
You have to draw a line for yourself because now, Myke, I know I told you that I built the black monolith that I'm in for you in podcasting, but that wasn't really truthful. It's very useful for podcasting. But the whole saga of building the black monolith was entirely motivated by this project. That I wanted to have a much better audio setup.
You want clean audio.
I want clean audio. I wanted something that was at least... I knew I couldn't replicate it, but I wanted to get something that was at least close to the cleanliness of audiobooks when you have high production values for those. Like I did as best as I think I could do as an individual for approaching that level.
Well, I mean, like, considering how much money you threw at this project, why didn't you just, like, hire a studio for a day?
I seriously considered it, but one of the reasons I knew hiring studios wouldn't be great is because I knew I was going to end up doing multiple takes of this, which certainly happened over a long period of time.
And that doesn't work.
There were 3 different versions of the audio composed from... I think in the end, 8 different takes. And each time I was trying to get it better and more what I would want it to be. And this is where I did stop myself because I still don't like that final take. I feel like it's very close, but it's not really perfect of what I would want. But this is also a case where I had to set some limits for myself and say, all right, after 8 takes, we're done. You're it's not perfect.
Not going to do any better than this, right?
Yeah.
Like you can keep trying, but it's just going to be wrong in different ways.
Yeah, I think I could have done better if I had more time.
How much more time?
But at a certain point, I am the bottleneck in the process where the animation, the illustrations, they need to be moved against the actual audio I'm going to say, so we can see like where are we missing, like where are our images on the screen too long, what doesn't quite work with the exact timing of the way I've said things. Like there's so many details that hang on finalizing the audio that this was a place where it's like I got it 90% of the way where I want it to be, and I'm gonna have to stop myself because I will re-record this for another month if I have my way.
And I guess the problem is you're about to start traveling.
Yeah.
For the summer, so you didn't have any more time to record it in the Black Monolith, right? Like this was it, right? You can't push it on 3 more months because otherwise this video comes out in November.
Yeah, there is a very we were really down to the wire on this one, where if this video had not come out when it did, which is a couple of days ago as we're recording, it probably wouldn't have come out until after the end of the summer, precisely because people's schedules are all of a sudden less available. I'm less around. So like we were really pushing it to get it out by the end of April because we knew like we're going to start. It's going to get into that time where there are just big delays because someone isn't available. Very often that would be me. And you just can't move the thing forward. So yeah, it was like we got to get it out at this time, and that was partly what I was able to tell myself, like I can stop recording this audio because otherwise we don't have a chance of making it.
So what about the business side then? You said we're going to come back to the business side. We've done the personal ROI part.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you can do art above commerce sometimes, but, not all of the time.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I do this almost on a weekly basis. Like, I produce things that I know I'm never going to make any money on because I want to make them.
What is your most recent art over commerce project? Like, what's something like that you've done recently?
Streaming Portal 2 for 8 hours.
That's not profitable, Mike?
It will be eventually.
But not today.
It is this first stream. I didn't make any money on it, but it is in like, and I guess the same kind of thing that you're thinking of with the animation, right? Like I did this thing and it cost me a bunch of money, but this actually might work out to be a good thing in the future, and that's how I'm approaching stuff like this. I think in the future it could become a thing, but right now I would do it purely for the love of it.
Yeah. My thoughts on this project is, especially when you're self-employed, I think it's really important to be trying out different things and to just have your mind on different stuff, because it's really easy to put your head down and just always work on the thing that's successful and that's great. Like you can double, triple, and quadruple down on the successful thing and keep your head down. But if you do that all the time, if you don't ever look up and try different things, like you may not recognize as the landscape shifts underneath you. So this is a project that I can justify from a business perspective purely for the fact that it is good to do new things, and it's good to try out different ways of producing stuff. In a more direct business way, like there have been places that have opened doors about doing, a big series, for other places.
Just when you're walking down the street and someone's door opens and they're like, come on, make a series.
It's just like sometimes that's a thing that can come up at conversations with places near or places far, who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
It's just a thing. Who knows?
Who knows? No one knows, really.
Just talking in general.
Yeah.
But now in a very small way, I have at least some concept of what it's like to work with a tiny team. Again, I'm really only working with 3 people here, but it does make it's a big difference between working with one person.
Yep.
And it becomes exponentially more difficult. And I would feel like if I ever did something that was much more complicated and involved many more people, I would have at least some better idea of what to expect going into that. As opposed to if we rewind the clock 6 months, I really wouldn't have any sense at all of what that would be. And part of that means recognizing the parts where I'm not good at that. Yeah. We're talking about this video came out and it's amazing and I'm really happy with it and I couldn't imagine anything that's better. But I'm not always the best at working with people, and it's useful just to have a sense of where am I better or where am I worse with this? How does the process work better or how does the process work worse? And maybe that's applicable in the future, maybe it's not. But that's a kind of thing just to know for the business and for myself. So not every individual project needs to be ROI positive. And this one may or may not be, but I'm very pleased with the way it came out in the end. How's that journal going, Myke?
Well, the journal we spoke about before no longer exists.
Oh, so poorly then.
No, actually.
Oh.
Little fake out for you. I got a new journal.
It's like the Phoenix Journal, rising from the ashes of the other one.
Exactly. So I had a slight problem with the structural integrity of my previous journal. I created the cardinal sin of removing pages from the beginning of the journal before I started using it, which meant the cover started to come off. Right. I should have known better, but nevertheless. And then I decided to go down a different route. I will put links in the show notes to what I bought. There's no point in me explaining it, but it is a really nice paper made in Japan, and it is a company called Hobonichi, and they make these specific journal products, like journaling products. And what I like about it is there is a page for every day, and it's just blank. It's just got the date on it, so it's not really boxing me in. So it's a smaller book. So because it's smaller, I've had to refine my questions because I don't have much space anymore. But I actually, having done my journal for a bit, I found a different feel for what I wanted to be putting in it. So I want to give you a recap of the questions that I was using and now what I've changed to, which actually means that I now need to get both of these journals in front of me. Okay, so journal 1.
Okay.
Before I changed over, I was asking every day, what are my priorities? A good thing that's happened, a bad thing that's happened, what I'm looking forward to, what I have learned, what is on my mind, and the pens that I've used. That was what was going in on a double page every day. So now I've moved down to a notebook, which is single page every day, and the single page is probably about a third smaller. So a lot had to go, right? So I started looking at what I had. I decided the first one to go was priorities, because all I was doing was just patting myself on the back every day. It was kind of pointless, really. It didn't really give me any kind of feeling of like, congratulations, you did this thing. All I was doing was opening Todoist, writing some of my tasks down, and then ticking them off at the end of the day. It quickly, the dopamine rush of that quickly went away.
Right.
Like when I started the journal, it was lovely to be like, you accomplished these 3 things. But ultimately, it just became like, why am I writing these things down again? They're already written down. So that went quickly.
Yeah, I've really struggled with that thing too, where there's like a use in prioritizing 3 things that need to happen, but I always find any kind of information duplication. I cannot maintain it for long periods of time. It's like, oh, this thing's here and it's there.
You start doing it for long enough, and it's like, well, if I'm only saying my priorities are 3 things, why do I do everything else? Right. And then it's the question of, well, they're also important things, which is why I do them. So then it's like, well, then what's the point in me doing this in the first place, right? Like I either start listing everything that's truly important or remove things that aren't. And I didn't really get any specific learning from performing that activity. I can imagine that activity being very valuable for a lot of people, but for me, over time, the value of writing that down every day waned quite quickly. So for me, writing down my pens every day is something that I like to do, because
it's so cute, Myke.
Because this whole process, and one of the reasons that it has stuck for me, is that I love my pens, and I don't get to use them as much as I would like. And my little self-imposed rule of using 2 pens every day, and they cannot be the same pens as the day before, means that I'm using a lot more of the stuff that I love. Like I'm changing it every day. So there's just a little space right at the very top of the page where I just write down the name of the pen, and that makes me happy. And then I was going back to kind of like the core of what this thing was for in the first place, which was to help me kind of just really think about what is going on in my life and focus on the impact the things are having on me, and kind of looking at it and seeing what I can do. So very quickly, good and bad thing made the cut, because they were kind of like the crux of doing this in the first place. Writing down a good thing, writing down a bad thing, allowing me to reflect on those and seeing if and how they keep popping up, right? That was very useful for me. The same with looking forward, because that has been very valuable to me in understanding that there's always something good on the horizon, and just taking time to think about that every day. And also with the self-imposed rule of not repeating the same thing 2 days in a row makes me value things that are coming up. So that's been very good too. And then the other thing that I kept came from you, which was originally in my old journal on my mind, but it's changed in the new journal to think/feel.
Oh, that's good.
So this kind of encompasses the learn as well, because that's where I kind of put stuff like that. Like if I've learned something that I find interesting, it will go in think and feel, because typically they're either things that I think or feel. That doesn't get completed every day. Good, bad, and looking forward will get completed every day, although Sometimes there isn't a good thing or there isn't a bad thing. There's typically always a good thing that I can write down, but something that I enjoy is not every day a bad thing gets written in. I think that can be a nice feeling. But I try my best to fill as much as I can out of every one of these every day. It has also become a weekday only task for me. It is a very work-focused journal.
That's an interesting idea.
Because if I'm finding that I'm just putting work stuff in there, if I'm putting stuff in on the weekend, it maybe means I'm working too much on the weekend. So enforcing that as a practice for me, I actually found to be not good. So I don't do that. The other reason that I bought this journal, Gray, was it gave me a way to start having daily active questions from triggers. Because what this journal has in it is also a monthly calendar view with a little square for every day.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have is I have my questions written down the side of the page, and then in each daily box, I give myself a score out of 5 for every one of those questions, and then add them up to see my daily score. So it's given me a way of finding a way to put this information on paper, which I wanted. I wanted it in the same place as my journal because they are a process that goes hand in hand. And I also wanted it to just be on paper. That was just the way that I liked it. And then when I'm finished with my journal for the day, I complete my active questions too. I'll give just a refresh of my 7 questions. Be creative, advance new ideas, generate revenue, make colleagues feel valued, do good for Adina, engage my audience, and improve my health. They are my 7 questions. And I give myself a score out of 5. There is no scale for this score. Like I haven't defined what each of these mean. It is more for me just how did I think I did today? And that is kind of like, I know that is a very loosey-goosey way of scoring myself, but that's kind of all this system feels to me, really. It's just a way for me to reflect on how I feel I have done in a day to give myself some data.
Yeah, this is the looseyest, goosiest system ever.
Exactly.
Like the whole journaling thing, it's not scientific here.
No, right? like there is
today
no
I feel
evaluation.
exactly 4.2 on making colleagues feel valued.
Exactly. So like, so it's just how I feel on each day. And like all good data, it has given me something already. So I've been doing this for the whole month of April, by and large, except when I've been traveling or it's been the weekend or whatever. And I've noticed something very interesting, which ties in with a personal hypothesis. I am a person who travels a lot, and I enjoy traveling because when I travel, I'm typically going to do something that I enjoy, and I'm with people that I care about, and it's always a good time. I spent the first 4 months of the year not traveling, having spent the previous 8 months going somewhere every month.
What do you think was the furthest you were from your home in the last 4 months before travel started?
Not far, man. Like within an hour.
Right, okay.
So not far. And I believed as the time was drawing to a close of being just stuck in London, that my mood was declining because of it. Like I was kind of feeling maybe a little bit grounded or trapped, I wasn't liking it. And my scores started declining leading up to going to the Atlanta Pen Show. When I have come home, the scores are significantly different. So going from, in the week prior, scores of 15 out of 35, 15, 17, 18, to coming back, and I have not scored myself lower than 24 in the last week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel better, like I feel rejuvenated in general, and it's coming through in the work that I'm doing. I feel more energized again because I am entering a period of knowing that I'm getting into my normal rhythm again. So I'm working differently, I'm working harder and faster in the time that I'm in London, and I have things to look forward to and new ideas and things that I'm able to put some work into because of the fact that my usual rhythms are coming back. So the daily active questions, I will really enforce this as a very good thing. If you can find a system that works for you, because having only done it for a month, I can already see the benefits of having this information. It's very much like time tracking. The actual daily benefit of time tracking is almost zero, right? Me spending the time to track what I'm doing every day does nothing for me every day. But when I want to find out a piece of information about myself, I have this huge data set to draw from. And it's taught me some very interesting things. You know, we spoke about this at the beginning of the year. Like, when it comes to setting my yearly themes and thinking about the things that I want to do every year, I have this data set of, by and large, every time I have spent any time working over 365 days, what did I spend my time on? That is an incredible source of information, and it's why I continue to time track all of my work every single day, because maybe in December I'm going to need it.
Yeah.
And that's the same for me now with the active questions. It is a very quick thing for me to do. It takes no more than a couple of minutes. I should also mention as well, a friend of mine listened to the show and reached out, and they're doing it too, and we are reporting to each other.
Oh, so you're going all in.
Yes.
On the triggers method. You have an accountability buddy.
I have an accountability buddy, a guilt friend.
Yeah, we didn't mention that, I think, in the actual discussion of the book review, the idea that you're supposed to have somebody check in with you on those questions.
To make sure that you're both following them, and also as a person to ask questions, which we have been doing to each other, of why are you scoring yourself 1 on that every day?
Yeah, it's like, as I think I have made very clear, I feel this almost weird resentment to journaling and how effective it is at all sorts of things, because it's so touchy-feely. And the accountability buddy, I do not deny that would be even more effective, but it's a bridge too far for me. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't go down that bridge.
I will say, when he recommended it, I was apprehensive. Like, I was willing to try it, but I was apprehensive. It is valuable.
Oh, I do not for a second deny that it is. But it's like, if I had to do the, like, let me tell somebody else how I feel about my work today. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do it. Even though I would acknowledge, like, if I was forced to do it, I would almost certainly acknowledge that it's a benefit. But it's like the activation energy of that hill is just too high.
Yeah. You know, but in
I'm
general,
happy for you, Myke. I'm very happy for you.
I mean, I was saying in general that, like, I'm surprised that this whole process has embedded with me as quickly as time tracking did. Both of these things people will spend a week doing and shy away from it, right? But this feels very much to me just a part of my daily life now. I have been on trips and I've been away from doing it for like 4 days, come back, straight back into it. And that's when I know something has become a habit. When I can, because I'm the same when I travel, if for work, I very rarely will time track because it's too difficult to work out what's work at times.
Oh yeah. Time tracking while traveling and working is a nightmare. It's very hard.
It's very difficult to do because it really helps when I have consistency to be able to know what's what. But when I don't have my consistency, it's difficult.
Yeah, like I've jury rigged my own little ways of doing it, but it's like it's so fiddly. I would recommend to almost anybody doing time tracking, like, hey, when you're traveling, just put in a whole bunch of hours for traveling and leave it at that. Like, you're fine. Right, you're fine.
But this is like, you know, and like time tracking, it's just something that I come back to. And I actually think the reason is the idea of the actionable data.
Yeah.
That's what both of these systems share. And there is a part of my brain that really likes to have that. And the benefit of being able to just look at a piece of paper and tell by numbers what my emotions are is incredibly important to me and kind of my well-being and my mental health. Like, I have been able to look at this calendar and confirm something which I now won't let happen again. So if I am faced with a period of no travel for 4 months, I now need to know that there's something that I need to do during that period of time to make sure I don't get this like stuck in a rut feeling that I had. Right? So like, I don't know what that is yet, but I know that if I'm forced with it, I'm going to spend way more time thinking about it instead of just thinking about it like 3 or 4 weeks before it was over. Because I realized that I was like, had these feelings that I wasn't able to fully appreciate until I got to the point where I was getting ready for my next trip and then being like, why does this feel good? And then like kind of like unpacking all of that to come to the answer of, oh, you were on this like decline in your output and in just kind of your general mood because you weren't doing something that you love, that you'd gotten used to.
It really is good to be able to quantify it like that and be able to look forward in advance and try to solve that problem ahead of time. That's something I should definitely do more, because I think oftentimes my impetus for a graycation is my wife gently suggesting that maybe it's time for me to go away for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should do that. I really like what you've done with having the 30-day boxes on one side and the questions on the other and summing it up that way. I think that is a great idea, and that's a great way to put all of that data in a visible place, because that's something I've come across as a problem of ending up with all of these individual pages that I would then have to collate the data across, and it's like, I'm never going to do that again. It's like the data duplication problem.
I was never starting this until I could do it all on one view. That was why like it was kind of like, I really like this, but I haven't got a system for it yet. And then when I was looking around at new journals and saw that they had these just monthly pages of a space for every day, it was like, well, that's it. That's what I need. I can see an entire month at a time and flick between pages of months, and it's all just there. It doesn't need me to write out every day as to whether, like all that kind of stuff. And I've flirted with the idea of maybe just having check marks of like ticks and crosses as to whether I feel like I have made an impact. That was like something that I was thinking about. Like, do I need the numbers? But now I know I need the numbers, because a tick could be 3, but a tick can also be 5. And when you add those things together, it's very different in the results. Like I could feel like I have adequately done something today, but if I feel like I have excelled at it, that is a very different mind space to be in. So the numbers work for me, but I also have a short list. I've been seeing a lot of people sharing their lists in the Cortex subreddit, which is really like fascinating to look at.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that quite a lot. I've noticed those posts as well, and it's very interesting to see how other people format their questions and what they're putting on those lists. Again, as Triggered specifies, the scope of human endeavor is not infinite. There's a lot of overlap, but it's still always interesting to see how do people phrase things, or how do they order them, or like what are they putting emphasis on. I've enjoyed those posts quite a lot as well.
But like I've seen people who had like 20 questions, and there's no way I would score those. Like you might just be best at ticking and crossing, or people that have like really, really specific things as well, which I totally understand. It was like, if something's super specific, you might not need to score it. You might just need to have said, yeah, I did it, right? Like make progress on X. Well, sometimes it doesn't need a score. Like you can just say, yeah, I chipped away at this a little bit. Like one of mine, so the new ideas, advanced new ideas, that was one that I was toying with for a little bit, and I actually made change to just a binary yes or no, because some days all I may need to do is just have thought about something for a minute and go in a note, and that might advance the idea. Like it doesn't always need to be such a large thing. And also it's like it's all related to the big mystery project, right? For me, a lot of it, which is not moved again. And I hate like looking at that and being like, oh, I still haven't done anything on it. And luckily, I've got some other stuff that I'm actively producing right now, which is growing in scope, and they are new ideas, so I'm scoring highly on that. But once I've got that taken care of, I'm going to be going back to Mystery Project when it comes to question 2, and I'm not looking forward to that again because it's I'm just hitting blocks that I am not sure how to progress yet. But maybe scoring myself on that every day will actually help me make some real decisions on it eventually.
Listening to you talk about it, I've really got to make some decisions about this and give it another real push. I mean, that was the whole reason why I wanted us to read the book a second time, was because I thought like it was sticking with me, and I felt like this is a thing I really need to try to work into my life on a regular basis. And I keep pushing it off. Like I have this recurring task that pops up every once in a while, which is like, think about how you want to do your journal, buddy. And I'm like, we can delay this for another week. I'm too busy this week to think about it. But it really is something that I need to give another very serious go, and to try, like you have done, to successfully work it into a real routine, so that it's as regular to me as the time tracking is.
Yeah, I just sent you a picture of what my double page spread looks like. It's messy, as you can imagine, but it gives you it just gives you an idea of what it looks like, like,
yeah.
So that kind of layout has been really good. Like, it's very simple, right? And it helps me get it done quickly, and then also to be able to look at all of those scores together is the real great part of it all.
I'm envious of your success with the journal.
It's nice and colorful, isn't it? See all the different colored inks that I have?
It is very nice and colorful. It looks like there's someone who loves pens using this journal. Lots of smudges that make it your own. That's good.
It's lots of smudges. It's very smudgy. This is the problem with being a left-handed person who uses fountain pens. Your life is full of smudges.